Thanks for waking up with BT. I'm Meredith, 9:16 on your Thursday morning. And if you're among the 3.4 million Canadian homeowners who will be renewing their mortgage by January, well, the truth is it's going to sting. So some might see their interest increase nearly double or triple compared to the early COVID days. Here to help us get ahead of the renewal shock is Senior Financial Advisor Shiraz Ahmed. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, this is a big conversation. This is a conversation we were having just before we even got on here. As soon as I saw you, I'm like, what's going on? This is going to be major for so many Canadian families. So paying 2 or 3 times the interest rate for the mortgage you're currently paying, I mean, what does that actually mean to Canadian families out there? Because that sounds impossible.
Well, absolutely. So here's the good news, is that doesn't necessarily mean that your payment is going to double or triple, but it does mean that the interest that you're going to be paying will increase significantly. Now, in some cases, it could be as much as almost double the payment, depending on what rate that you had previously, because you have to remember that going back to the COVID era, we typically have 5-year terms in Canada when it comes to your mortgages. So given that, people were at the time, the prevailing rates were around 2%, banks were offering incentives to have it even less than 2%. So you're looking at, right now prime rates are just shy of 6. So it could be almost triple, in some cases a little bit more. So that way you're going to see a little bit of sticker shock as soon as that renewal does come, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your payment is going to double or triple.
So this was an interesting concept to me. So it doesn't mean that the payment's going to double or triple. It could sort of get as close to double, but it just means that the payment that you're making is going more toward interest than it is the principal. So you're going to take a lot longer to pay off that mortgage.
Absolutely. And that's, I think, the one that people really need to pay attention to is the amount of your payment right now is going towards principal and you're actually lowering your balance. But unfortunately, if your interest rate does go up to almost 6%, most of that payment is now going towards interest service rather than paying down your debt. Yeah,
that's an interesting distinction there, or a sad distinction, but interesting, good to know. So what can we do to mitigate some of that renewal shock, as we're calling it?
So it's a good question. And I think what most Canadians can do is, number one, shop around a little bit, play the field.
Yeah, we can do that, right? It's not just okay, we go here, we've been here, now we're going to stay here. We can see what else is out there.
Absolutely. So everybody will be automatically renewed by your current lender, so that's fine. But you want to play the field a little bit, see what else is out there. Perhaps there may be better or more favorable terms for you. So call a mortgage broker, call another financial institution, and see what other things that you can get from another institution. Another piece that I think is also important for people to look at is it's not just about the interest rate. And I know that that's what we're all hyper-focused on, is that the rate's going to go up. But you also want to look at the terms and conditions that go along with your mortgage, too.
Fine print, is that what you're talking about?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
We all have to read the fine print, but especially important when it comes to mortgages, given that you want to be looking at what are your prepayment terms? What are the ability for you to perhaps renegotiate in a year or two if the Bank of Canada keeps dropping rates? Then that might be something you want to do. So what are the penalties associated? These are all important questions that I think everyone should be asking.
And you also talk about sort of changing your payment plan instead of monthly to something a little bit different. That's a possibility too?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's remarkable, and this is where I say that no one really fully understands the power of compound interest, but by changing your payment frequency from, let's say, monthly down to either semi-monthly, bi-weekly, or even weekly, you could theoretically cut years off of your mortgage just by having a couple extra payments per year. It is remarkable how much that can actually work in your favor.
And then what about just paying a lump sum, if that's even a possibility for people? Is that a good thing to be looking at right now in terms of your financial goals? If you got some principal to add to it, is this the time to do it?
Absolutely, especially if you're considering that this could be a pretty big sticker shock for you. So that Christmas bonus, that big commission check coming up, this is a good time to look at, especially if your terms and conditions will allow it. Maybe making a big lump sum payment could actually help, and because that goes directly towards your principal and isn't subject to interest.
So what if we totally pull back and think about, do we want to be owning a home? Or can we? Or is this a financial impossibility at this point? You really want us to be asking ourselves the hard questions.
100%. And I think this is like a real Canadian phenomenon, especially more so, I'm a cross-border advisor, so I get to see front lines between Canada and the United States and how people actually behave. And this is one that I find is a very Canadian phenomenon. We tend to be having this love affair with real estate. And I'd say, look, we all need a roof over our head, 100%. But do you have to own it? And I think one of the pieces that everyone keeps looking at is always what is the payment associated with this, but not necessarily what is the true cost of ownership. And I think that's one major distinction. We're all trained to focus on, okay, what is my car payment? What is my monthly mortgage payment? But how much are you paying for that asset? Because it could be as much as, especially at these interest rates, $1 million home could cost you almost $1.5 million after it's all said and done on a 25 to 30-year amortization. So start thinking about, is it even worth doing? Because we don't want to end up being house poor.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are the tough questions, tough conversations we're all unfortunately having right now. Shiraz Ahmed, this is very helpful, and I'm sure it won't be our last one on this. But yeah, renewal shock. You've helped us out today. Where can people find you online?
So you can always find me either online on my website, sartorialwealth.com, or you can follow me on YouTube, Sartorial Wealth.
Okay, we're going to do it because we need the answers. Thank you. Thank you for being here.